All right, welcome to this brief tutorial of how I have set up my home lecture studio and how I typically will run an online lecture. So we're just going to get started. This is the screen that normally shows up when uh, when I start a class. And what I will normally do is leave that on until class starts at Berkeley time. And so I have a couple screens set up that just uh, give a little bit of description, keep things nice and clean, and I will show how those work in a moment. But so first, what I have is my video, and I'll just show you how things work, and then we'll walk through the setup. So I'm on video, and now what I'm going to do is go over and switch to PowerPoint and start lecturing. So I'll click this. I'll click, I have an interface here which can control my video hardware. We'll explain how that works, but I just click this button in this case that I've set up called lecture key, and I can then hide over here and hide Chrome, which is not normally open, and other software. And now I'm in PowerPoint. And so what I might have is this interface of me overlaid in the lower right corner on some slides. And as I go through PowerPoint, I could go through and talk about various things of whatever the topic of the day is. And the nice thing about this setup are a few things, but one is that in Zoom, my screen would be captured if I had Zoom running, so students would see this. But what I see at the end of the recording is a nice higher quality version that can then be saved and uploaded as well. And then this just gives me some more flexibility than what Zoom allows. I will typically also in Zoom share my screen, and then this view that you're seeing on YouTube with my screen is also a camera view, which just makes it a little bit easier to share a nice recording later on. So there's that. And then when I'm done, I can end the PowerPoint. I can swap back over my view in my hardware switcher. I can animate things if I want to, and so on. So how does this work, and what does my setup look like? Well, to demonstrate that, I'm going to swap my camera over to my phone. Whoops, let me get my picture out of the way. And so what you see now is myself overlaid on top of my phone, which I'm holding in my hand, so I have myself with a green screen, my phone, and this is going through a hardware switcher. So I'm just going to turn that off. And what you'll see here is just my phone as a webcam, as a camera. And so the meat of my setup is this device right here, which is a video switcher. So it has 8 video inputs. I only need about 3. Sometimes I use 4. I'll explain how to set up in a minute. And the red indicates that my third input is live. This green, this red indicates that my third camera input is what's live and on air. This green is called the preview input, which I'm not viewing that right now, but if I tap this auto, it will swap over to my third input, or excuse me, this green input, which is currently saved as a background of Hearst mining. So one of the things I find fun to do, you could do this in Zoom, you could do this with the green screen setup that I have here. But one of the things that I find fun is to use backgrounds, which are all on Berkeley's campus. So this is a video switcher. This is called the Blackmagic ATEM Television Studio HD, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it has 8 inputs. I think 3 or 4 is the sweet spot, and I'll talk about a little bit simpler device in a second. But these let me switch which input the camera is coming, the video is being shown. I am doing a different thing for audio, but these buttons here let me control audio. This just lets me, these buttons right here let me set things up. And the camera that's being fed into this is my digital mirrorless camera, digital SLR, although it's not technically an SLR. But what's happening here is the HDMI input off the side is being fed into the switcher. down here. So that's the third, actually, that's the first input. So if I have it on the green screen, that will be used. And then on top, I just have my AirPods without to angle the display, but what I have here is a USB audio interface. So this is the Sound Devices Mix Pre 3. The Zoom H5 or H6 are also common devices. I really like the Mix Pre 3. It has nicer build quality and a little bit better audio quality. And it is in particular better for certain kinds of microphones, which I will mention in a second. But the really nice thing is they have really nice knobs that let you adjust the volume. I have this chart which displays the audio levels, and I can toggle different displays if I need to for certain things. And then I monitor my audio either through here or through the switcher so that I have a good record of what is being displayed. This also records a backup audio feed if I need it to, but for today, I don't need to do that. So what else is also on my desk? I have my keyboard and trackpad and a small computer fan as a desktop fan, just because it gets a little bit warm where I'm sitting. The desktop fan is nice because it is silent and it doesn't create any additional mic noise. Incidentally, the biggest problem that I have with this switcher right now is that it is a little bit noisy to the mic. So if I were to put my hand here, you might be able to notice that the audio changes a little bit because my microphone picks up some of the fan noise from this. So I may work on that in the future, I may not. What is also very useful is this device right here is a mute switch. So if I were to press it, you might notice that the audio got a lot more quiet. It mutes the mic just by pressing it on and off. This is really useful because I know that if this is depressed and I have my microphone, no audio should be going into my computer. And it is a really nice thing. It makes it easy to toggle on and off. I don't have to find a mute switch in Zoom and so on. I always have a glass of water while lecturing. And then this is my microphone right here. So this is a Rode NTG2. It is a shotgun microphone, which means that it has this long sort of pencil-like shape. And it has a fairly tight pickup pattern. And what I'm just going to do right now is switch back over to myself. And we're going to leave the green screen off. It has a fairly tight pickup pattern, which means that it's not trying to pick up too much background noise. If I were not maybe as picky or as particular, I would have a different setup with a microphone. So a lav mic will be a little bit easier to use. You can also get much cheaper lav mics, but I don't like the feeling of taking a microphone on and off all the time. I also, given that this particular frame is a fairly tight crop, I didn't want to have a microphone in my particular view. And when I've used larger microphones that are mounted on an arm, they tend to cover up parts of the screen. So I really wanted a microphone that was not obstructing the view of my main monitor so that I could see what I was, if I'm just using slides or if I'm in particular demoing code, that was, that was not blocking my view in any way. And actually what I will do right now is swap back over to a couple photos. So this is a side view of my desk. And my main image right now is the monitor on the left over here. So that's my main screen. The microphone gets moved around a little bit as I'm still playing with things, but is pointed towards just about my neck or very upper chest, kind of a little bit below the mouth because you move around is a great place to point a shotgun microphone. And then what I have on each the left and right are some large LED light panels that are primarily lighting the green screen behind me. And then above me and behind the monitor is this main LED light at the top. I'm using a photography umbrella, which reflects the light, makes it a little bit softer. And most of the setup is borrowed around photography equipment that I've had. Some of it has been recently acquired. But what I will say is that none of the hardware has to be expensive. I've used a few particularly expensive pieces. My main camera is, of course, used for more than just this. I don't think I would buy as nice a camera just for lecturing, but it's what I had. It works very well for this purpose as well. The light panels are from this company called Light Panels, but they've been bought off eBay. They're a few years old, but they're rock solid. They're an array of LEDs and work quite well. And then this is what the background looks like behind my monitor. So I'm still playing with the setup all the time. This is one of my main photography tripods. It's nice and compact. In the current setup, it is not quite as stable as I'd like. So, if I were buying new hardware, I might look at something slightly different. But it's a really nice compact travel tripod that I carry with me everywhere when I go. And then on top of it is just a ball head, which is useful to give me quite a bit of flexibility. And what's called a magic arm is the device that is holding up the umbrella there. But it's just a camera mounted on a tripod behind my monitor. And I'm kind of just playing with the angle and positioning just to get it so that I have a bit wider than my headshot, but still, a nice sort of close-up view. So that when I'm on camera, you can see that. And what I will also go back over and show and point out is a particularly useful device. So this device right here is the Blackmagic Video Assist. It's a recorder and monitor. So one of the outputs of the switcher. So this is one of the advantages of having a nicer hardware switcher. But one of the advantages of this is that I have a second video output, which is going to this monitor. So through this cable. And while I'm lecturing, I have my computer screen down here, and I can always see what people see in Zoom. And I find this a lot easier than trying to keep my Zoom thumbnail up on the screen. The really nice thing as well, I'm not doing it right now, but I have the ability to view some additional information. So audio levels, light and color information. And then if I want to, I can record a nice full resolution, uncompressed version of the video into here as well. So that is a really handy device. This is a 5-inch screen. They make 7-inch screens. And what I've mounted it on is a repurposed microphone arm clamped to just my standard monitor arm. So there's that. What I'm going to switch over to now is just my regular camera view. So my switcher is an 8-input device. Blackmagic have a 4-input switcher called the ATEM Mini. So this is probably the sweet spot for most recordings. And this is about $300. They can be a little bit hard to get right now because of the fact that everyone is doing more live streaming. But you have 4 HDMI inputs on the back. You have an HDMI output. So with the ATEM Mini, you could potentially have your HDMI output go to the monitor, and the USB output can output a video feed to the computer. They are controlled by an Ethernet port in the network. So one of the slight cons of the setup, but if you're using a desktop setup as I am, is probably covered, is that you do need an Ethernet port and you do need network connectivity to control them nicely. And I'll show what that interface looks like in a second. But we have 4 inputs, so you can press 1 through 4 to toggle them. You can also control when you toggle. So there's this mode. There's a couple different modes. You can automatically switch videos when you press 2 through 4 or whatever it is. But you can also use a mode which will let you cue the next shot and then press auto to control it. And the ATEM Mini has a particularly nice feature that is not on the larger Television Studio HD, but it has two buttons right here which turn the green screen keyer on and off. This is something I find really useful since I will switch back and forth between a clean shot and the green screen keyer on and off. The ATEM Mini has a few more buttons for audio control, although I don't particularly find these super useful while I'm recording. Once I have things set up, they are hopefully mostly set up. And then the second nice thing about the ATEM Mini is that the USB output directly from this device. So it's USB-C, which is nice and easy, especially if you have a recent computer. But this shows up directly as a webcam. And you get a HD quality feed that works directly as a webcam into your computer. The Television Studio HD that I have and that I'm using only outputs via HDMI or a video standard called SDI. It's just another cable format, but you then need a USB to SDI converter that I'm using to turn that into something that a webcam will see. So what I'm going to do right now is switch back over to my computer and show you a few things. So what I did was I pressed video input 2 is my HDMI input as a view from my computer. And what I have here in shown is a web interface that controls the switcher. So this is using an app called Companion, which is a nice free app. It runs in the background, so I can't actually toggle to it, but it is up here in the menu bar. Basically, what it does is it runs a little local web server that gives you control and that you can configure your switcher. And so if I want to, it has a control interface, but I don't really need to do anything right now. The really nice thing though about the about this is that it just gives me some various functionality. So I have a big button called key toggle, which toggles my view on and off. I can, some of these are actually not configured right now. Why? Yeah, so this one is not configured. But if I hit lecture key, as it was the start of the lecture, that will also send my image to the lower right-hand side, which is where I personally prefer it. But there's a few different ways I can do it. So I'm going to leave that there right now. I'm going to hide Safari, and I'm going to show the software control app. So the ATEM software control app is what allows the switcher to do its magic. It looks a lot like what you might see as a virtual version of the physical hardware in a television studio. And it has a bunch of controls. Most of the time, you don't need to interact with too many of them. So the way that this works is I've got two rows of controls. So the things in red called program, or what is actually being sent to the screen. And the things in green, the preview, is what would happen, what would be sent to the screen if I then click the auto button. So I can preview Media Player 1, and I'll show what that is in a second. I hit auto, and it's going to switch my background to Hearst Mining Building. If I hit auto again, it will swap the green and the red inputs. Whoops. And you can also, if you want to, just abruptly, you can just use the cut button. So, well, how does this all work? There's the green screen behind me that the hardware switcher is doing the green screen. I think the quality is a little bit better than Zoom. The downside compared to Zoom is that you do actually need to go through and fiddle with the sliders. So, you know, what is this right now? I can also zoom in on my screen. This is 121. You know, we can have some fun, and I can make myself go a little bit green if I wanted to, and potentially, if I were to get it right, make my actual face disappear. But that is a little bit weird, and so, oops, not 42. We want 121. Hey, why is that being weird? Well, we'll just go up. That's about where we had it before. So incidentally, there's that. And then I don't know why this happened, but my video input background got switched. No. There you go. So I want this. There you go. We want our green screen to say that's filling camera 1, and the background will be the HD2 or computer input, as I've named them. And so you can do that. This is also where it has functionality to control where and how large the green screen is. So I set A to be the lower right, B will transition to the upper left, and full goes there. And if you want to, there's some fun effects. If you're looking back here, just to one side, I can click this and it will shrink my image out of the way. Not always useful, but if you're looking to animate something, can be fun. So what else is here in our control app? So we have a bunch of media player options. So this is my source for images. I've picked some images of Berkeley and some other backgrounds. This is from the podcast Presentable, which I enjoy. The others are photographs that I've taken. But what's nice is I can have a couple images preloaded. So one of these is usually my starting on Berkeley time image that I started with. If I'm at office hours, I need to take a step away for a moment, I will put the back soon image up on my screen. And that just says, I'm not going to hear what you say for a moment. So that's something nice to use. And then beyond that, I don't do too much with this, but it does have some audio controls. So I just route my microphone into the XLR inputs of the switcher. And if you're using Blackmagic branded cameras, there's some really cool functionality to control them. But I'm not using a Blackmagic camera. I'm using a Canon EOS R. So I mostly just leave that there. But once this is set up, I really don't need to touch the software during recording or during a lecture. It pretty much stays configured and hidden out of the way. And so what things will be like is just me lecturing, this way, looking at the screen, and I'll have recording. So beyond that, that's just about everything that's there. I don't have it set up today, but what I will say is also very useful about this setup is it makes it very easy to switch between a computer input and my third input is typically either right now I'm using the HDMI adapter for my phone, but I have an HDMI adapter for an iPad as well, or mine is different because I have a different iPad. But if you have a Lightning iPad, the Lightning adapter will work for both a phone and an iPad. Or if it's a newer iPad, you can use USB-C. And that's really nice because you can use an Apple Pencil to annotate things. And then that is basically the setup. When I'm done, what I'll do is I'll press the fade to black button, and that's how I usually end a lecture. So I'll have some notes, links to products, and things like that below. And then if anyone has questions, you can email me as well. So I hope this was helpful.